and welcome to Let's Talk About Book, where we talk about
book.
And I'm Smeevca.
And I am Strawberry.
And we're reading The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson.
Nope, Hero of Ages.
I
know, we've only done one so far where we did Hero of Ages, and we did so many Well of Ascension.
We did, and I keep doing it. Like, I want to call this book Well of Ascension so bad. Yep. It's crazy. And it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a minute.
It's been a little bit, but we've had stuff going on.
Yeah.
I am hopefully starting a new job soon, and I had to get, like, some stuff sorted.
Yeah.
To get ready to do that.
Yeah, and I had, like, a wedding and a memorial and
people visiting and things like that. So there's just, like, and the election happened.
Yeah, so there's just been a lot.
There's been a lot going on. We've had a lot going on.
Yeah. But we're back.
We're back, and we're hopefully, gonna get back in the habit. We post every other week.
Yeah.
So it's like we've not even really missed that much. We've missed
but
an
it
upload.
Still feels like it's been
forever.
And it's like been almost a month.
It's like like by the time this gets uploaded, it will have been like a little over a month, but only by like a day or two. But yeah, it's what was I even saying? Oh, I literally just today made a Blue Sky account.
I also made one today.
Yeah, because, Twitter's Twitter.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should make some, like, social media for this podcast. Yeah. But I don't want to do it on Twitter.
Right.
Because Twitter sucks. But Blue Sky seems to be better, generally.
It seems like older Twitter. It's pretty fun.
Which, I mean, I got off Twitter even before it became X.
Yeah.
Before it became what it is now. But, doing the podcast Twitter, it's Blue Sky.
Right.
Whatever. That'll be whatever. I can just, like, post the episodes and be like, watch it.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
So, I'm Straub's hyphen place on Blue Sky.
Mm-hmm. And then it's just Let's Talk About Book. All one word. Let's talk about book. Each are capitalized. You can't do apostrophes, so it's just
yeah.
Let's Talk About Book. But then, the actual like username, is it like properly like spaced and with the apostrophe and stuff. So yeah, and there's nothing on there right now. But when this episode comes out, I'll post it there.
Right.
And that'll be fun. And I'll maybe, put up some stuff like, hey, here's all of our stuff. It's like put up the playlist maybe like the day before or something, and then the next day I'll put up, or maybe just like on the same day I'll be like, here's, all of our stuff, and then here's the new thing,
Right.
But yeah. And I also know that some of you are coming over from Tumblr.
Yeah.
from Straub's Tumblr.
Yep. Because I posted on there.
Yeah, which is fun.
Yeah,
and so
I've been seeing the like Cosmere Tumblr people and stuff because I've been following Wind and Truth preview chapters, and there's people posting about that on there, which has been fun.
Yep, I hear. Well, I don't really hear much of anything about the chapters. I just hear that they happen and some of your feelings.
It's been quite good, and we're basically less than a month till the book comes out fully. So I'm very excited.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's,
it's like updates and whatever before we get into it.
Yep, because the thing is that like the last episode, we were gonna do a longer thing, and then we like cut it in half. Like even whenever we made the last one, we were kind of like not feeling it.
Yeah.
And so Straub had like read all of the epigraphs, and then I cut that section in half, and then we were like, maybe we could use that like other half of the audio for the epigraphs again. But it's also just been so long,
right,
that it's just kind of like will probably sound different in terms of like difference in like tone and energy.
Yeah.
And also just like I would like to hear them again, please.
Yeah. So I'm going to read them again.
Yes, and it has been it's been a minute since I read this section, and so I'm just going off of my notes. So I think it'll be a lot of fun to just read my notes and try and be like...
Try and decipher.
Yeah, because, like, sometimes I write notes, and it's like, this really makes sense having literally just read these exact words, but then I don't remember the exact words that I just read later, and I'm just like... What?
I can try and find can try and find it in the book in front of me.
Right. Yeah. Because it's like I'll occasionally get this thing where it's like, I agree, so and so, and I'm like, what did they say that I was agreeing to? You know. All right. But anyway, we're about to get into the epigraphs.
It is too easy for people to characterize ruin as simply a force of destruction. Think rather of ruin as intelligent decay, not merely chaos, but a force that sought in a rational and dangerous way to break everything down to its most basic forms. Ruin could plan and carefully plot, knowing that if he built one thing up, he could use it to knock down two others. The nature of the world is such that when we create something, we often destroy something else in the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. We're getting so much lore just in the epigraphs.
Yep.
Which we don't normally kind of get, and that's fun. And it's like... Ruin wants to tear everything down, but it can build something up if it tears something else down. It's just like an interesting, like, you know, how can a thing, this whole thing is ruin, create something, and, you know,
Allomancy was indeed born with the mists, or at least allomancy began at the same time as the mist's first appearance. When Rashek took the power at the Well of Ascension, he became aware of certain things. Some were whispered to him by Ruin, others were granted to him as an instinctive part of the power. One of these was an understanding of the three metallic arts. He knew, for instance, that the nuggets of metal in the Chamber of Ascension would make those who ingested them into Mistborn. These were, after all, fractions of the very power in the well.
Yeah, so that ends up being interesting, because it's like, okay, so they're fraction... of the power of the well.
Yeah.
And you can use the power of the well to, like, move the planet and stuff.
Yep.
To like, do this sort of, like, grand stuff. So it's like, you know, so, like, the power of the well is just, like, super allomancy, but, like, but you also burn it to, like, do all this big stuff, and then you burn that metal and you become an allomancer. Yeah. It's like, how does it all kind of, how do the pieces all kind of fit together? Yeah. And also, you know, it's interesting that, like, because I'm assuming that this has been... like how she sort of like understands all this stuff, you know, it's like having the power and what it sort of like feels like, and so it's like, okay, so, you know, and Ruin was talking to her, so it's like must have been talking to him and all this sort of stuff, or at least I assume Ruin's what was talking to her. Yeah, because it's what was released into the world. We know that from earlier. Yeah, so it's just like all this interesting little lore stuff, and I'm curious how the pieces sort of fit together in terms of the metal that makes you an allomancer, and, you know, it gets, like, passed down, and also the three forms of metal, whatever.
Yeah, the three metallic arts.
The three metallic arts, which would seemingly be allomancy, hemalurgy, and ferrochemy. You know, I always leave the door open for there to be shenanigans. Yeah. You know?
Yep.
Like, so that's the thing with stuff like Mistborn, you can't get too attached to like your specific theory while it's still like forming, because he'll pull the rug out from under you, but in such a way where you're like, wow, and there was another rug underneath that's even better.
Yes, yeah.
Like this rug was here the whole time and I didn't even notice. You know.
You could see the borders around the other one, and you couldn't tell it was a different rug. It was
like he pulls the rug out from under you, and then you look and you realize there was never a rug to begin with. You were like, what? I was a fool to think that there was a rug this whole time. Look again. There was no rug. And I feel the same is also true for like One Piece. You know, people get too attached to their like One Piece theories as well. Definitely. Especially when you're week to week.
Oh yes.
Which is why like I don't even want to theorize too much about what's happening like currently in the manga.
Yeah. So much can change from like chapter to chapter. I mean, I've been like, you see that a bit in the Stormlight preview chapters, right? Like 2 chapters come out and you're making theories, and then like the next chapter it's like, oh nope, none of nope.
Nope, new theories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with, like, a constant weekly thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Which, there's, unfortunately, a break with One Piece right
like
now.
Like a 3-week, like, manga break, it seems. And then the anime's on break, and,
Although we are getting, reanimated Fishman Island, which we should watch some. Yep. And because we have to, hit all the bases.
Yep.
Because it's like so much has happened in the time between, like, Alicia X Life, who we talk about.
Yeah.
We bring her up all the time.
Yep.
Because we, like, watch her stuff. And then she had a whole kerfuffle with YouTube.
Yeah, got, like, hacked. And was trying to get it back, and it was a whole thing.
Yeah. and so we ended up, like, watching stuff on her Patreon.
Yep.
Because we were like, but we want to watch
her react to One Piece, though.
We want to react to One Piece. Yeah. So, yeah, it's so much time.
Yeah.
We hadn't even seen that one guy's unhinged One Piece takes yet.
No. We need to talk about that. Yeah.
His unhinged power scaling takes, but, none of that is actually important to the epigraphs. So we should probably just keep reading those. Did we actually have something? Did we have something else that we wanted to say about this most recent one though? Like the 3 arts or whatever.
Unless you had something.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe we'll get more into that later because like we've already heard of all 3 of them by this point. It's just like, oh, that's what they are. Yeah. But
yeah. The one before chapter 10. Mm-hmm. Nuggets of pure allomancy, the power of preservation itself. Why Rashik left one of those nuggets at the Well of Ascension, I do not know. Perhaps he didn't see it, or perhaps he intended to save it to bestow upon a fortunate underling. Perhaps he feared that someday he would lose his powers, and he would need that nugget to grant him allomancy once more. In any case, I bless Rashik's oversight, for without that nugget, Elend would have died that day at the well.
I do wonder if there's some way to, like, take away someone's allomancy.
Yeah.
Like, if he knew some sort of secret about that, essentially.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that would be also a big weakness for him.
Yeah, and it was something that he would want to hide.
Mm-hmm. Like, I could see that, because it's like, I don't know if we've gotten here, because, like, I don't remember what was in the previous chapters versus in these chapters. They're like, going and checking out those, like, bunkers or whatever full of supplies. And there's, like, the tablets, and they have, like, stuff written on them about some of the metals that we now know about, but didn't know about previously. And I'm like, I don't even think he'd write something like that on there if he was like, and here's how to get rid of allomancy. Because then that would be too much of a thing that could target him.
Right.
Like, the whole gold shadow thing, or the malatium... Not malatium, but, like, whatever. The one that lets you see someone else's, like, gold shadow. The 11th metal.
Electrum, I think it is.
Electrum. It's like that ended up being like something of a weakness for him, but not in any way that he could have like predicted, because we were like, oh, this will be his weakness, and then the answer was just it showed her the last clue they needed for her to figure out that it was Rashik, and thus that he was both a ferochemist and an allomancer. So like having Electrum, having the 11th metal did end up being helpful, but just not in the way that anyone could have predicted. Because it's not like, the Lord Ruler was sitting there thinking, like, if they can see my gold shadow, then they'll know that I was,
Right. No, it is malatium.
It is malatium?
Is see other people's pasts.
Okay. Gotcha. Interesting. Weird that would be called malatium. Although I guess it's like, right, because it's, I guess it is the reverse of ATM, because instead of seeing that person's future, you see their past.
Yeah.
And so then there's like gold, where you can see your potential other present, like alternate paths. And do we know what the, like, sort of the opposite gold does? Is that Electrum? Have we encountered that so far?
I don't know if we have.
Yeah, because it's like, it must exist sort of, well, because there's one that makes ATM not work on you, or something like that. It, like, neutralizes the effects of ATM that they've been talking about.
Right, that's Electrum.
That's Electrum, right. And is that, like, an alloy of gold?
Don't remember.
It's okay. It'll become more clear to me as the book goes on. It's also just been a while since I've been,
I'm looking at the Ars Arcanum, so I'm trying to...
Right.
That's my chocolate bar.
Little pup does not need chocolate bar, for sure. That is not for you.
Absolutely not.
That is not for you, little baby. She's like, but I want it. But now I'm getting good.
I just heard some crinkles next to me, and she was like pulling at the corner of it to go and take it.
To go steal it.
Yeah.
Because she's a little rogue.
Oh, yeah, she's a little thief.
She's a little thief. A little rogue. A little scamp. And she's just a little scoop. Just one little scoop of pup.
Of puppy. Okay.
Okay, let's, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we did the one before 10.
And now 11.
All right. The first contract, oft spoken of by the Khandra, was originally a series of promises made by the first generation to the Lord Ruler. They wrote these promises down, and in doing so, codified the first Khandra laws. They were worried about governing themselves independently of the Lord Ruler and his empire, so they took what they had written to him, asking for his approval. He commanded it cast into steel, then personally scratched a signature into the bottom. This code was the first thing the Khandra... I tried so hard.
If you hear those little sounds, that's the sound of the aforementioned puppy. That's Holly doing her little dance, where she just like drags her feet on the carpet. Okay, anyway.
Alright. He commanded it cast into steel, then personally scratched a signature into the bottom. This code was the first thing a Khandra learned upon awakening from his or her life as a Mistwraith. It contained commands to revere earlier generations, simple legal rights granted to each Khandra, provisions for creating new Khandra, and a demand for ultimate dedication to the Lord Ruler. Most disturbingly, the first contact contained a provision which, if invoked, would require the mass suicide of the entire Khandra people.
Not to poke fun, but first contact. Yeah, it's the first contract stuff is interesting.
Yes.
And something from the previous thing, preservation?
Yes.
That was something in the previous one. It's not in this one, but we know that it's like, the Khandra are people of beings of preservation, instead of ruin.
Yeah. The power of preservation itself.
Yep. Capital P, preservation. And we've heard Khandra before say, like, we are of preservation, while y'all are of ruin.
Yeah.
So that's curious. Because I think I talked about this in the previous episode, but, maybe not. This idea that, like, there's another well of ascension on the other side of the world, and that's where preservation is held, and so we're going to have to go free preservation using the other well of ascension.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because it's like we're on like one side of the planet, because like the middle of the planet's like uninhabitable because it's too close to the sun now.
Yeah.
So it's like the equator has gotten too hot, and so now we're like forced on the poles.
Yeah.
And so there's like a whole other civilization of people over there, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. Did everyone end up over here? Because I'm like, I don't know. Because I think I'm interpreting this correctly. That it's like, he moved it closer, it got too hot, so now people can only live at like the poles. Yeah. And so it's like, are there other, like, is there just like a whole other civilization of people who've just been living their lives down at the South Pole or the North Pole or whatever it is? Could be. And we just haven't encountered them?
Yeah.
And like, they've got their own shit going on? Was the Lord Ruler occasionally popping over to them? If so, how? Yeah. How would he do that,
Yeah.
So it's just like, what's this all about, man?
Yeah. I like it. I like the thoughts.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be doing this again.
Alright, next one?
Yes. And also these are much longer.
Yeah, they are. Rashek moved the Well of Ascension, obviously. It was clever of him, perhaps the cleverest thing he did. He knew that the power would one day return to the well. For power such as this, the fundamental power by which the world was formed, does not simply run out. It can be used, and therefore diffused, but it will always be renewed. So knowing that rumors and tales would persist, Rashek changed the very landscape of the world. He put mountains in what became the north, and named that location Terrace. Then he flattened his true homeland, and built his capital there. He constructed his palace around that room at its heart, the room where he would meditate. the room that was a replica of his old hovel and terrace, a refuge created during the last moments before his power ran out.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because also it's like, okay, so the little fragments, it's like a fragment of the power of the well, but they're also, it's allomancy, power of preservation. So the well was like preservation, like the power of preservation, but also it had ruin in it. So like if we go to the other side of the world and there's another well, would that be like the power of ruin and
with
preservation trying to like come out? I don't know. I don't know if that would make sense, or if this is just like the one place that you can do this.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just like, oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Because it's like, where's preservation? You know?
Yep.
Got to bring balance to the Force.
That's the last one, unless you want me to read the one before 31. 14.
Did we not do 13? That's 12.
Oh, where is it?
Yeah.
It got hidden in here. There it is. It got hidden in here. All right. Hemalurgy is so named because of the connection to blood. It is no coincidence, I believe, that death is always involved in the transfer of powers via hemalurgy. Marsh once described it as a messy process. Not the adjective I would have chosen. It's not disturbing enough.
Yeah, because, like, I think he makes some sort of offhand comment about that in, like, the first book or something?
In the second book.
In the second book?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, who does he say it to? Because he never talks to Vin in the second book.
I believe to Sazed.
That would make sense, yeah. Yeah, the connection to blood. And don't we hear that, like, someone always dies?
That's what it just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is no coincidence, I believe, that death is always involved in the transfer of powers via hemalurgy.
Right, it's the transfer of powers, and I've been going on about how they're like, they were talking about like, oh, the terracemen that we've been using to like...
Right.
And so I'm like, oh, and like some of them have like more spikes than the previous ones did, and I'm like, you know,
seemed to move a little bit differently.
Yeah, and so I'm like, yeah.
There was someone at the beginning who...
moved quicker than they should be able to, and I was like, oh, are they using like, you know, the whole thing where like, says it could store speed,
right,
you know?
Right.
And so if they've like found a way to give themselves both, you know, because if you can give someone allomancy through this process, because, you know, he was not a full Mistborn before becoming
right.
a Steel Inquisitor, then maybe this process could give someone ferochemy, and you know some of these spikes would be like, oh, I now can, you know, I can store speed and use it or whatever, however that may be, and so then there'll be a bunch of mini Lord Rulers running around in a sense, which would be not good.
Yeah.
But also, you know, we know how, but they have like a sort of more obvious weak point, because you just pull the thing out their back, but also they've been wearing shields over them now and stuff, you know. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, because we do normally also read the one for like the next chapter, I think, even though I don't always hear it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, for 14.
Yeah, sure. Ruin's consciousness was trapped by the Well of Ascension, kept mostly impotent. That night, when we discovered the well for the first time, we found something we didn't understand. A black smoke clogging one of the rooms.
Right,
Though we discussed it after the fact, we couldn't decide what it was. How could we possibly have known? It was part of the body of a god. Or rather, the power of a god, since the two are really the same thing. Ruin and preservation inhabited power and energy in the same way a person inhabits flesh and blood.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely didn't listen to that when listening to the section, but we do normally like go over like the next one.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do
you want to look at it real quick?
I think I'm good. I mean, because I have all these like notes here that are like more relevant now.
Yeah.
In a
Got
sense. Well, just like hearing that, like calling it a god or whatever, and like part of a god and ruin and preservation, it really feels like, you know, this Kabbalistic stuff.
Yeah.
Which we also have a funny extra thing in the back of my notes here. But
we were talking about One Piece.
Yeah.
We'll bring it up later.
We'll get to it later. I don't know when exactly.
But, you know, we'll interrupt with a random One Piece aside at some point.
Yes.
So, you know.
Right.
Get ready for that, I suppose.
Yes. And yeah. and we'll give spoiler warnings
right.
when it happens.
Oh yeah, we will.
But yeah. So I guess that's it
for the epigraphs.
For the epigraphs, man, oh man, the smoke, because there was that smoke, and I was like, what is it? Mm-hmm. We didn't get any sort of explanation or anything. So yeah, but it's like, how does Vin know this now, or whoever this is that's writing this? Because unfortunately, I'm the hero of ages.
Yeah.
So like, I assume that's Vin.
Yeah.
Given it's like, because she's like, oh, we talked about it later.
Yeah.
Whenever, so it's like it's one of the people. But I'm like, it could maybe be says it, but like it seems like it's Vin because it knows all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, but no name has been specifically said yet.
Right.
And like first book, we assumed the whole fucking time that it was the Lord Ruler, and I was so sure it was the Lord Ruler, and then it wasn't. So now I'm like, it can't be. And also in the previous one, it was like, oh yeah, the thing that you wrote down, it's changing.
Yeah.
Only the thing set in stone, and so it's
right. They are very telling.
Yes. Yes, it's all very much, tricksy and stuff, so it's like I'm a little on guard. But yes, that's the end of the epigraphs, and then we will start the chapter by chapter. Alright, chapter 8.
Chapter 8.
We're starting with chapter 8. My first note is Ruin wants to break everything down, which was about the epigraph, because normally I didn't take too much notes about the epigraphs in the chapters.
Yeah.
But these have more to talk about.
Yep, they're a bit bigger and they're dropping a lot.
Yeah, I have so I have Mist is killing again.
Yeah.
No animals targeted by Mist, which is odd. Not all die. If you live, you never get attacked again.
Right.
Yeah, and
yep.
Cause
the Mist gave the fits to about 1 in 6, and only a small fraction of those died. Plus, a person needed to risk these new mists only once. One gamble, and then you were immune. Most who fell sick would recover.
Yeah, so it's like, most people don't end up dying from it.
Yep.
So Ellen and Vin are having them just like go out into the mist.
Basically inoculate them. That's what they say. It's like,
yep, it's like,
you have to stay out there.
Yeah, it's just like, there's nothing else you can do. You're gonna have to be out in the mist.
Yep.
So you might as well just go ahead and get out of the way.
Yep.
And everyone who survives will survive, and the people who don't, it's unfortunate.
Yep. And we can take care of the sick, like while we're like stationary,
Right. And
instead of moving.
But Vin feels bad about it.
Yeah.
Because it feels like, well, we just killed them.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the mist killed them, but it's like, well, we told them to go out in the mist. But it's also like, well, we can't.
We can't. Yeah.
Like, they're gonna have to go out in the mist. Like,
it still doesn't feel great, but
Right. And they have Kolas with them.
Yes.
And I have, what's up with them saying they'll be human, and then human is clever, because she's talking to a Kolas, and the Kolas refers to himself as human. He's human, the Kolas.
Yep.
And talking about, and she has like a kind of an interesting conversation with him.
You don't think I'm human? The Kolas said. It spoke slowly and deliberately, like the others she had heard. It was as if they had to think hard between each word. You aren't human, Vin said. You're something else. I will be human, the Kolas said. We will kill you, take your cities, then we will be human. Mm-hmm.
And I just wonder what's up with them, like, were they created from humans? Like, do humans get turned into Kolas somehow? Is, like, what's up with them?
Yeah. And then, I like, what is your name? Human. I know you want to be human. What is your name? That is my name. Human. You call me Human. That almost seemed clever.
Yeah.
And so then it is Human the Kolas.
Yep. And so I said human is clever. Yeah. Where was I? Oh yeah, you're big inside.
Yes. Yeah, I hate you. I want to kill you, but I can't kill you. No, I won't let you. You're big inside. Very big.
Yep. And I enjoyed that.
Yeah. And then, like, trying to figure out how they make, like, how more Kolas come into being. They're like, where are the Kolas women? We're not like you. Oh, I like that. Women? Like me. We're not like you. We're big on the outside only.
Yep.
No, not my size. How did one describe gender?
Yep. I have, what is gender short of stripping? She doesn't think how to describe it.
Yeah.
Which is I think there's something kind of funny about that. This whole thing about gender and what does gender mean for them, and like sex versus gender, and
right.
and like like it's interesting.
Yeah.
It was very interesting having a little bit of this in here.
Yep.
And I just thought it was funny. It's like doesn't even have a conception of gender besides stripping and sex, and and like what is gender besides sex to Vin?
Right.
Trying to like, it's like no, not like, because it's like, okay, like I can try and explain sex. What is gender? Sort of like on top of that, and she's like having a hard time kind of coming up with that, and I'm like, yeah, because it's weird, ain't it? Yeah, where do New Kolos come from?
Yeah.
And that's a big question that I have. I want to know where New Kolos come from.
Yeah.
Demu is battle scarred, and then I have spear symbol, which I believe is the symbol for the Church of the Survivor.
Yes.
And says, ironic, their symbol is what killed their god, badumts.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's very. It's very.
Like wah Christianity.
Yep. It's an interesting one.
Which even like, it's even still Christian imagery having it be a spear, because it's the spear of Longinus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The spear that pierced Christ's side, which makes an appearance in Evangelion for reasons that are, because there's like a thing that's called like the Spear of Longinus, and there's all this like Bible Christian stuff in there that the creator was like, I just thought it was cool.
Yeah.
It's like, what does it all mean? I just thought it was cool.
It was cool.
Yeah. But but it's like the cross, but it's a spear.
Yep.
And Demu's got too much respect for Vin. I don't know what that's maybe something to do with how Vin feels, given he's all like Lady Air or whatever.
Yeah, so maybe, of course, she didn't like to think about the other possibility, that the spear might not represent the one that had killed Kelsier. It might very well represent the one that she had used to kill the Lord Ruler. Mm-hmm. She never asked Demu which it was. Despite 2.5 years of growing church power, Vin had never become comfortable with her own part in the doctrine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think there might be some sort of specific other thing, but I don't know. Just sort of like, how Demu feels about her, given that she's part of the religion, part of the doctrine, and all that. And those are...
Oh, yeah, here it is. Mm-hmm. He'll stay, my lord. After the scare Lady Vin gave him last year, Demu glanced at Vin, trying to smile, but she saw it in his eyes. Respect, far too much of it.
Yeah.
He didn't joke with her the way he did with Elend.
Yep.
Still, she still couldn't believe that Elend had joined that silly religion of theirs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah.
Yep. And he's like, nope, I'm sticking to it because I made a promise.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is interesting.
It's also interesting because he didn't know Kelsier.
No.
So I feel like it almost makes more sense for him to... for it to, like, have a draw to him that it, like, wouldn't for, like, the people who, like, did know him.
Right, because the people who did know him, they don't join the religion because they're like, yeah, he was just, like, this guy.
Right, but, like, he only knew people who, like, knew him.
Right.
So, like, he can still kind of have that, like, religious feeling towards him in a way.
Right, it's like, oh, Kelsier would know what to do.
Right.
It was, like, a big thing in, like, the last book and whatnot.
Right. Which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting. See, anyone who has any sort of relationship like that, where they don't really know the person but are preaching them, I'm like, it's freaking the Apostle Paul.
Yeah.
Because I called someone Paul in the first book, the one who was like, Kelsier visited me,
Yes, yeah.
And get sort of like things started with that,
Right.
But then, because Ellen's, Constantine or whatever. Converted to Christianity and made the empire. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So those are all of my notes for chapter 8, by the way.
Got you.
Is there anything else?
They're just talking about the next cache is in Fadric City.
Right.
And where Set is from or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, we're finally going to go and take Set's place back.
Right. Set's been wanting them to go and do that for a while, and now they finally have, like, a reason to.
Yep.
Other than just getting Set his shit back.
Yeah. And Elend is, he's setting out to conquer the world.
Yep.
It's the, like, line at the end of the chapter. Conquering the world, Amu. Or at least what's left of it.
Yep. Yeah, and it's interesting. It's also funny because they think that maybe the ATM will be there.
Yeah.
And, then it's like, he fucking left to go get the ATM, and the ATM was there the whole time. Where he was. Set.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Set left to go get the ATM, but the ATM was potentially where he was the whole time. But he couldn't have gotten into it because you need Allomancy to get the things open.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yep. That's all for chapter 8.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Chapter 9. Yep. I have 3 metallic arts written down from the epigraph. Metal that makes you Mistborn, fraction of Wall of Ascension power. I can maybe sense the ATM retcon coming, ? This was back when I was, still, thinking about that.
We did talk about some stuff earlier that is... We'll have to actually talk about the ATM retcon at the end of this book.
Yeah.
To, like, just fully go through it.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that got planted in my brain right the very first book in a way that, has been bugging me.
Yeah. But I have learned that there is more to it.
Yeah.
But I want to wait to the end of the book till we talk about it.
Gotcha. Cool.
But it shouldn't affect anything in this book.
Right. Yes. 7 centuries ago, the Khandra were new, but the first gen turned the third gen over to the second gen.
Yeah.
The seconds want a seniority-based system. Most don't know about Khandra government. The Trust.
Yep.
Kampar, second gen, red crystal bones.
Yeah, it's his bones.
Yes. 9th gen and younger are adults. 10th gen is at 100 plus, and that's a lot. Malam, wood bones, cloth hair. What is gender to Khandra? Younger gens are pushing true body boundaries, which is amazing. 4-armed true body. Older gens talk like Lord Ruler, kinda. And those are all of my notes for chapter 9.
Yep.
Which,
I mean, I think that's pretty, Yeah,
because it's like we're back with the Khandra.
Yeah.
And because like has his like trial like started yet?
This is kind of like the start of the the trial. It's like, you insist on forcing this trial, and he's like, yes, and they
because I just got so like I took like no notes on what was actually like happening in the chapter, sort of like plot wise.
Yep, just like the lore. Khandra lore.
Khandra lore. The Khandra lore. It's just like, it's also interesting. 7 centuries ago. Which, like, do we know when the Lord Ruler rose to power? Because that was longer ago than that, right?
About, like, 1,000 years ago.
Yeah. So it's like...
Yeah.
They're, like, a couple hundred years, I guess, pre-Khandra.
Yeah.
And then the Khandra first show up. And they, come to the Lord Ruler like, hey, here's a contract.
He'd been born 7 centuries ago when the Khandra were still new.
7 centuries ago when the Khandra were still new.
Though by that time, the first generation had already given over the raising of new Khandra to the second generation.
Gotcha. Right.
So they've been around a bit, but, Yeah,
so he's 700 years old, and the Khandra was still new then, but how new is kind of unclear.
Yes.
Gotcha. Right, yeah, it's been a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's interesting, because we just, don't see the first gen.
Nope. We have not seen them.
We just haven't seen them. They're just and they don't say anything to anybody. I'm like, are they dead? Are they just dead and then we're just pretending? But no, they're just the first gen just seemed to sit around and do nothing, while the second gen just kind of run everything, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And and the third gen, he's part of the third gen?
Yes.
Yeah, and they're sort of, like, annoyed.
Yeah, and they do the most, like, missions outside, like, the homeland.
Yeah.
The third gen.
Right, so the third gen, it's like, because, like, all 3 generations existed, and then they were like, alright, it's like, alright, second gen, you're in charge now.
Yeah.
And so the third gen are not happy about that.
Yeah.
And that's why they are the way they are. And then all the subsequent generations after that have just grown up with the second gen in charge, and so they have, like, a kind of different, and some of the differences between how the generations kind of, like, feel and stuff.
Yep.
And newer generations are doing, weird youth things.
Yep.
Like forearms and cloth hair, wood bones.
Yeah, when we see Milan with her...
Is it Milan?
Yes.
Okay, because I had it written as Milan, and then I wrote it as Milam. Like, I changed it to an M because I was like, I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah,
but
It's right here.
Yeah, Melaan, and the L is capitalized. I just have it written like Milan, the city.
Yeah.
But with an M at the end instead.
Yep. She had a new true body, an eccentric one with bones made of wood. Yeah.
It's interesting. I love all the weird Chandra body stuff.
Me too. And so, like, this whole kind of trial and stuff, he is not really thinking he's gonna, like, win, but he's mainly trying to win over a lot of the younger generation and just, like, let them know what's going on. It's kind of the whole point of the trial.
Right, yeah.
So, he wants to, like...
He wants to kind of start something with them.
But
doesn't feel like he's gonna, like, it's not gonna help me much, but it can maybe help them.
Yeah.
Which is a big theme in the series of, like, passing things on, in a sense. Inspiring others, getting,
Yeah. If he was to be condemned to endless imprisonment, then he wanted his people to know the truth. More important, he wanted them to hear this trial, to hear what he had to say. He would not convince his second generation, and who knew what the first would silently think, sitting in their shadowed alcoves. The younger Chandra, however, perhaps they would listen. Perhaps they would do something once Tensoon was gone.
So I have the trust in quotes. Why? Why do I have that?
Trust Warren or whatever?
Maybe.
The Trust Warren is the place that the trial's happening.
Okay.
Okay, here it is. The close number species. The Trust. It was directly beneath him. Oh, it doesn't say. It's just the Trust. It was directly beneath him, directly underneath him.
That's probably why I just have, quote, the Trust, and no further explanation, because it did not give me one.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Good to know. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. The place is called the Trust Warren, and then... Yeah,
and the older gens talk like Lord Ruler, kind of.
Yeah.
They kind of have his accent, talk like him, and also I know there's a whole thing about, like... It's crazy how y'all, you model your bodies after humans while saying that you're better than humans.
Yep.
And then the young generation is doing weirder, wackier things with their body, and you're, like, not happy about it, even though it's the thing that's actually, like, more sort of nonconformist against humans and whatnot. It's fun and interesting.
So this just goes to the start of the trial, and then the chapter's done.
Yep. Gotcha. And so that's chapter 9?
Yep.
Alrighty, I enjoy the Chandra chapters a lot. They're some of the most fun I've been having so far with this book, because it's just like the Chandra have been this kind of like interesting mystery. Because like the Mistwraiths are an interesting mystery in the first one, and then we like eventually get like this weird reveal like at the end of book 1, and then in book 2 there's a bunch of Chandra stuff, but it's all mysterious, and now it's like
and
we're here,
and we're only really seeing the one. Like we're not seeing the whole,
we're not seeing Chandra society. We're seeing the Chandra society and actually being like, no, they have like a society, and here's what Chandra all about. It's so cool. It's so much fun.
They're we were talking earlier, they're one of my like favorite just like fantasy like races, like species that I've read. I love them.
They're great. I've been really enjoying these parts, and so like I really want to read more and stuff. So hopefully, keep doing this, and I'll keep reading and whatnot. Alrighty, chapter 10: Nugget of Pure Allomancy, the power of preservation itself. Capital P.
Yep.
Excuse me. Why did Rashek leave it? the last little nugget. Which, we talked about that in the epigraph section. Sazed going over religion.
Yep.
Art monks.
Yeah.
Larsta.
That's the one that they're going over.
Yep.
Larstism?
Mayor converted to the art religion. He gives the argument from evil, essentially. Breeze essentially just goes over the argument from evil, like, if there's a good and loving God, then why is there evil in the world?
Yeah.
And then Breeze talks to Sazed about Ashfall. He's so fun. If only it were red. Oh.
Yeah.
If only it were red.
yeah, he's like, it's just all gray and whatever. Gray. I just wish it was red.
It's like if it was red. Now that would be,
drama.
Dramatic.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to, like, cheer Sazed up, which is very sweet. Yes. If only it were green.
When I first read this with all the, like, changing texts and stuff, I was, like, convinced the sky was about to turn red or some shit. Like, just, like, some sort of, like, I was, like...
Right. It's gonna happen right now.
I was, like whatever it is, they're like, whoever is, like, listening is gonna, like,
Yep, gonna change things. That's great.
I was going a little crazy.
Yeah, I have Sazed's really going through it.
Yeah, he's really...
Yeah, because, like, Sazed, he feels... Like, he's really going through it. He's lost so much, and everything's going to shit. But he's also, like, he feels, like, bitter about how...
I think it's also... He lost so much when he feels like he... Like, in the time where he feels like he should have gained the most, because he, like...
Yeah.
They won. They beat the Lord Ruler, and then now, like... What the fuck? You know? Like...
Yeah.
Like, this should be celebration. This should be...
Everything's better now.
Exactly.
Right. But instead, everything's just gotten way worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, then he found, like, a little, like, then he, like, had Tindwyl, and then, like, lost that, and it's just,
it seemed like maybe things would go better, and then we release Ruin.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, just when we think we're gonna get it back on track, it, like, goes off track again in this way. Yeah, Sazed's really going through it. If only it were green. I think talking about the ash. Ariane is here. Vin and Sazed talk.
Also, Sazed is not sure that there is an evil force of doom.
Oh, it says it's not sure about the evil force of doom?
Yeah. Well, look at that. That hill is red. The evil force of doom is trying to destroy me. It certainly has style. I'm not convinced that there's any evil force of doom, Breeze, Sazed said. Oh? The Ashmans have always spewed ash. Is it really that much of a stretch to assume that they've become more active as of late? Perhaps this is a result of natural processes. And the mists, weather patterns change, Lord Breeze. And so just like...
Yeah. And that does kind of... Like, it makes sense, but it does also irk me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because in some ways it feels a little bit like, this is... Because, Sazed's in his atheist phase.
Yeah.
Well, clearly there's just a logical explanation. The sort of the religious... when you're in a religious story and there's a person who's an atheist and they're like, well, clearly there's a logical explanation for this obviously supernatural things that are happening.
Yeah.
But also, genuinely, it's, it's hard to say. He wasn't there when Ruin was released and all that. He didn't go in the Well of Ascension and all that. But also, it's like, my guy, you were like, I gotta go to Vin to stop her from doing whatever.
Yeah.
And then fucking, Marsh, who's being controlled by this thing, is like stopping you, and like, and then once he succeeds in stopping you and Vin does this thing, then all this bad stuff happens. So it's like, like, even like, there is a logical and rational explanation for this. It's just that it involves these things, There are these powers beyond us, like, an evil force of doom. Turns out it does exist. And, there's actual evidence for it as opposed to in our world.
Yeah.
But, Sazed will sort of come around to that eventually, I'm sure. Yeah. And then I have a note here that I'm having trouble sort of reading. Lost Vin not saving Elend with the power. Vin leaves flower drawing. Because I'm like, I guess that's Lass or Lost that I wrote. And it's Vin not saving Ellen with the power. And I don't know exactly that. Because I think she's like talking to... She's like talking to Sazed about like letting Ellen... Like not saving Ellen with the power. And instead like releasing the thing. And like they're talking about like loss. Because like, you know... Sazed lost Tyndall. It's like it's not really the same. Vin, like I get, you know, but Ellen's still here,
right?
You know, in that moment you were like willing to let him die fully, and that's like a big deal. And I'm not, but like you didn't actually lose him,
right?
And you were willing to, and he wasn't. I don't know. But yeah, Vin and Sazed have some sort of a conversation. Because Vin wants Sazed to do stuff.
Yeah, she's trying to like cheer him up and stuff at first.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and she left the picture that Kelsier
had given her of the flower.
Yeah, that was Mare's photo.
Yep. Well, not a photo.
Picture, I mean.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and those are all of my notes for chapter 10. Is there anything else you kind of want to go over in here? Because, you know, I think a lot of this is sort of like, you know, we're going over Sazed and what he's going through and his sort of like hopelessness and still trying to like have hope, and the flower sort of like, you know, being a symbol for that with Mare, and he's going over the religion that she was a part of and finding these contradictions in it, but then there's still like, you know, the hope and the flower and, you know, it's all that jazz. You know, we're doing things thematically here.
Yep, yeah, I think that's it for that chapter.
Alrighty then. Chapter 11.
We're back with Tensoon.
Tensoon trial. They are of ruin, we are preservation. I have that in here. That might be not immediately at that point, because I think I kind of wrote that in later in this spot.
Yeah. So it's they're like questioning him or whatever, and it's yes, I killed a Khandra. That is not forbidden. Need it be forbidden? Humans kill each other. Kolas kill each other, but they are both of ruin. We are of preservation.
Right.
The chosen of the Father. We don't kill one another.
Yep. Khandra replacing Khandra sets a dangerous precedent. Is what I have here. Hey, y'all got the father killed.
Yeah, and he's like, I was compelled by the contract, and they're like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Flashback.
But yeah, they were like, yeah, you're the ones who sent out the one who helped get the Lord Ruler killed.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever.
As in talking about
the Khandra who was Renew working with Kelsier.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever.
Yeah, it was the one who helped.
He's like, if I betrayed by like killing a Khandra, then you betrayed the Khandra by getting
Renew for for them. Yeah.
Because that was actual Orser.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The Orser that we did not know in book 2 that we met in book 1.
Right.
That Tensoon killed at the beginning of book 2.
Right. Yeah, that was Orser. Orser was Renew.
Yes.
So that's right, and that was Orser, and then Orser gets replaced by Tensoon, and so now we're at Tensoon. Right. Now I have flashback to Well of Ascension. I think just talking about him helping Vin and whatnot.
Yeah.
Vin is mother now. Our first contract is with her.
Yep.
She killed him and took his place. She's kind of like us in that way.
Yeah.
She's kind of like us in that way. You know? She killed him and took his place. You know, that's Khandra-esque behavior. Yeah. The resolution the Worldbringers spoke of. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. New blessing or Khandra can't be made on their own. Hadn't spoken to first gen in centuries. Maybe they're dead. A month? Why wait? Those are my notes, and I don't fully understand them.
Yeah.
The resolution the Worldbringers spoke of. I don't know what's.
Yeah. First, there's more arguing about whether he should have killed.
Yeah, whether or not he should have killed Orser.
Yeah. There's a little bit where he says that he helped write the first contract. It forbids killing of men, and is not a Khandra life worth more than that of a man? The words are specific, Kanpar, Tensoon snapped. I know them well. I helped write them. We were both there when these service contracts were created, using the first contract as a model.
Right. Yeah, so it's interesting. If he helped, that means that the 3 generations existed before they went and...
Yeah.
And did this.
It did the first contract.
Interesting. Yeah, so, like, I don't...
Yeah, because they made the first contract because they were getting, like, hurt by humans and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to... That's why they did the whole...
Right. So, like, did he not make them?
They call him father. This is kind of that's what we have.
Yeah, but it's like they're of preservation and the others are of ruin.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that plays into all of it.
Right.
Because also his powers from the well come from like preservation or whatever.
Yeah.
And he made them, then maybe that would make sense. But if the Koloss are from ruin, where did they come from?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Those are all good thoughts, though.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, what's this about the Worldbringers? Someone said something about the Worldbringers.
I will get to that. Sorry. Right, talking about contract with Vin. She's mother now.
Mother. Because the thing with the resolution the Worldbringer spoke of, I have after that.
Second generation may not realize it, but ruin has come. Life will end. The time that the Worldbringers spoke of, perhaps the time for the resolution, is here.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, more just sort of like, here's a thing that gets mentioned, and I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So that's why in my notes, I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I guess the Worldbringers had some sort of concept that this would come, and because he's been around for so long, he has, like, some knowledge of that kind of thing, you know? If he was around 700 years ago, back when, the Lord Ruler's still just getting his whole 1,000-year empire thing started. We're only 300 years into the 1,000-year empire. Right. We're only in, where are we? We're only in, like, post-Any-Slavy or something? I don't know. Yeah. We're not even to Marineford yet. We're not even to the time skip. Right. So there was some sort of thing, the resolution, which I do wonder what, like, how do they know about any of this stuff? It feels like Wheel of Time and the Dark One and the Seal and the Dark One and all that jazz. And how, like, people in the past knew. It's like, the sort of the cycle of things, seemingly, where it's like, Dark One gets free, we seal him again, he gets free, we seal him again.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that's what happens, but, the Wheel of Time turns and, ages come and pass.
We do know from the epigraphs that the power comes back to the well or whatever.
Right, and so it kind of...
Like, after a certain amount of time and such, so... Yeah,
it feels kind of like that. Yeah. New blessing or conjure can't be made on their own.
Yes. I did it because she has the right to know our secret. She is the mother. She inherited everything the Lord Ruler had. Without her, we have nothing. We cannot create new blessings, new Khandra on our own. The trust is hers now. We should go to her. If this is truly the end of all things, then the resolution will soon come. She will...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what is it with it? Like, because there's these blessings that have been mentioned but haven't been explained.
Yep, and that's capital B blessings.
Mm-hmm, right, capital B blessings. Can't make new blessings, also can't make new Khandra without the Lord Ruler. And so Mother has to do it instead. But how's she do it? How's she do it? They're gonna be like, Mother, help us. How? I don't know. He was the one who did it. Fuck. Gonna have to learn the secrets of making new Khandra. Whatever the fuck that involves. I don't know. Yeah. And then, hadn't spoken to first gen in centuries. Maybe they're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was saying about that earlier.
Tensoon turned and looked up towards the alcoves where the members of the first generation watched. But nothing happened. No motion, no sound. At times, Tensoon wondered if anyone still lived up there. He hadn't spoken with a member of the first generation for centuries. They limited their communication strictly to the seconds.
Yeah, which then makes me wonder, it's like, are the seconds just making everything up? Are the first generation just gone? You know, what happened? Yeah. Yep. And then I have a month. Why wait? And I don't know what that's about.
Yep, because your sentencing will occur in 1 month's time. Mm-hmm. A month? Why wait? That's what Tensoon thinks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, that explains it right there.
Yep.
He said it, that's why I wrote it.
Exactly.
A month? Why wait?
That's funny, because, like, I was literally reading it, like, when you said it.
Yeah.
And so I thought that...
I was, like, reading it as well from there.
Yeah, or had it, like, as a quote from Tensoon, and I was like, oh, no.
Yep, no, so I do, just I didn't have it attributed.
Yep.
Alright, and that's all I have for chapter 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want all the Khandra answers.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting how it's like the Khandra have this, like, you know, baked in thing with the Lord Ruler.
Right.
They're kind of like dependent on him in some way. And like they have this contract and whatnot, you know. And the whole like have to follow the previous generations thing. It's, you know.
And have to follow the contract.
It's you know, it's interesting. What's up with all that? I wanna know where they came from, how they're made. Them and the freaking Kolos.
Yeah.
The Khandra and the Kolos with their Ks. Where did they come from with a K? Also, unrelated, but I just remembered, I saw like someone else, a friend of mine in a group chat, posted a picture of a map from Era 2. And so I saw I saw like an Era 2 map with some city names that I'm like,
So saw Ellendale.
Yes, Ellendale and Vindel or something like that.
Yeah.
And Doxenor or something.
Yeah, there was some, I don't remember what.
Some shit like that. And I'm like, interesting. Maybe we should mark those like Era 2 spoilers. I don't know, but it's just, you know, very, very minor kind of thing. I'm just like, curious. Interesting names there. But yeah, so that's all for chapter 11.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Chapter 12. Vin talks with Elend about Sazed and Breeze.
Yeah.
Elend isn't really being sympathetic. But I don't remember exactly how this conversation goes.
Maybe about, like, Sazed. Sazed will face his own problems. He must have lost people before.
Yeah. Ellen's very, like, we got shit to do right now.
Yeah. And he's like, look, we lost a bunch of people there or whatever. Why is Tindwell any different? And it's like, well...
Right, yeah. It's like, you're not being very sympathetic about this. Going over missed safe zones. Over 90% of the Empire will be able to support crops this summer. What?
Yeah. Yep, because the mists are coming in earlier and earlier as there's less light.
Right.
And stuff.
So over 90% of the Empire will be able to support crops or unable? Unable. I just have able because I miswrote it, I think. Yeah, over 90% of the Empire will be unable to support crops this summer.
Yeah. Assuming the mists keep creeping towards Luthadel at the same rate, that circle represents the area that scribes feel will get enough sunlight this summer to support crops.
Right. Yep. Ham's less jovial lately, I have.
Yeah.
We're going after the last cache. Set swearing earthquakes. Are we conquering the city by war? We'll try diplomacy. 15% die in mist. Ellen's getting ruthless. Sending Breeze and Ham to Orto and Sazed. My notes are very confusing. Maybe don't call him Holy Witness. Right. I do remember that. Tell me about Kelsier. Sazed says he'd tell us to laugh more. We've got to smile in the face of death. Very One Piece. Those are all of my notes. And yeah, I don't remember this chapter very well. Yeah, because they're like making plans. They're like, we got to go after this like last cache of stuff.
Yeah, they're talking about marching to Fadrix. and like worried about the crops and stuff like that.
And there's like an earthquake or something.
Yeah. And Vin's feeling a bit more paranoid and such. Mm-hmm. Oh, and he said, yeah, and the small bubble will be gone by next winter. So.
The what?
The small thing on the map will be gone by next winter. So like there will be.
Yeah, the place that can support crops and stuff. Yeah. Right.
And then trying to think about plants that don't need light and that they can.
Right, that they can use instead.
Yeah.
You know what plants would be good and that don't need too much light.
Then there's an earthquake. And they seem to be happening more frequently.
Right.
Recently, I believe. Yeah. Sure have been a lot of those lately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's yeah. Does everything you say have to contain one vulgarity or another? What's the point of speaking if you can't say something interesting? Swearing isn't interesting.
That's your own damned opinion.
Yeah. Right. And you really shouldn't be complaining, Emperor. If you think the things I say are vulgar, you've been living in Luthadel far too long. Where I come from, people are embarrassed to use pretty words like damn. Anyway, and then the earthquake happens. Yeah. That's why I have set swearing earthquake.
Got you.
I'm like, why are these two things
connected? Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then they're like, so how are we gonna take this place, like, you know?
Yeah, and they're worried about finding the ATM at Fadrix.
Right, and like, are we gonna just, like, conquer it by force? And it's like, no, we'll try and be diplomatic about it.
Yeah.
Yep, and then I have a 15% die in mist. So I'm guessing that's just sort of, like, getting an exact number on what we were saying earlier. About, like, how many of them die when you go out.
Okay, there's another element to this, something we have not discussed. The mists. Fadrix City lies well beyond the mist perimeter. Will you subject your army to more than 15% casualties before you arrive at the city?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Basically, he has an army that hasn't
gone out into the mists and had that happen. Yeah.
That's kind of that.
Yep. And then I have Ellen's getting ruthless.
Yeah, and so then he decides, I think this is when he decides that they're immunizing the whole army. They're all going out. They're
all going to go out, and they're just going to have to deal with it.
Yep.
And then sending Breeze and Ham to Orto and Sazed. I think that's just all three of them are going there.
Yep.
And I just, they said Breeze and Ham, and then later they said Sazed, so I just wrote and Sazed as well. And I think Ellen calls him Holy First Witness. Or Holy Witness or something like that at one point. And he's like, don't.
Yeah, he at first doesn't want to go, Sazed at first doesn't want to go to Urto. Mm-hmm. And then Ellen is like, could you please, though?
Pretty please? How's Orto spelled?
Urteau.
Gotcha. Yeah, I had it like Oreto.
Yeah. That's how they say it in the audiobook, is like...
Yeah, Orto.
Orto.
And so it's like, I'm like, or, and then toe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. I'd really, prefer to have you lead that team, Sazed. I can't think of a better ambassador than the Holy First Witness himself.
Yes, his expression was unreadable. Very well. Yeah. I shall do my best. And I'm just like, yeah, maybe don't call him that right now.
Yeah.
I don't think he's particularly happy about all that kind of stuff right now.
I think, because, in the conversation with Vin earlier, I don't think he fully realizes how, fucked up Sazed is.
Yeah.
Normally that would be something that you could say to Sazed to, cheer him up, you know?
Right.
That would be... Mm-hmm. More reasonable, but at this point it's not maybe the best.
Yeah, at this point that's not what he wants to hear.
Right.
It's not what he needs right now. Yeah, and then he's like, tell me about Kelsier. I think that's Elland who says that. Is that to Sazed, or just to everyone there who knew him?
Yep, to everyone.
Yeah.
And then they all kind of talk about him.
Mm-hmm.
Kel was grand. He wasn't just a man, he was bigger than that. Everything he did was large. His dreams, the way he talked, the way he thought.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And then Vin, he was a man, only a man. Yet you always knew he'd succeed. He made you be what he wanted you to be.
Yeah.
So he could use you. But you were better when he was done with you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and it says, he tell us to laugh more.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to smile in the face of death.
Yeah.
Very One Piece.
He goes, Breeze... So he tells us to laugh more, says it says. Breeze chuckled. He was completely insane, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The worse things got, the more he'd joke. I remember how chipper he was the very first meeting after one of our worst defeats, when we lost most of our Ska army to that fool Yeden.
Yep.
Cal walked in, springing his step, making one of his insane jokes.
Yep. I remember. I certainly remember that. Yeah. It's something. And the whole, like, smile on the face of death, gotta be happy. It very much makes me think of One Piece, because that's like a recurring element. Yeah. With like Luffy and various other people who we see sort of like confronting death but smiling anyway. Yeah. Won't get into too much sort of specifics on that, I guess. You know, but yeah, it very much reminds me of that.
Yeah. And they're kind of just like talking about how like they need this more laughter and
right, more sort of like hope and cheer and things like that, you know. If you just succumb to despair, you won't be able to do anything. Yeah. Yep. Anything else?
Nope, there's just a little line that's funny from Set. You people are all insane. How I ended up with you, I'll never know. Now that's a lie, Set. You know exactly how you ended up joining us. We threatened to kill you if you didn't.
Right. Yeah, you know, Set, I don't think Set's gonna end up, you know, being a Breeze, where it's like, oh, you're actually good deep down. Like, you know, he cares about Orianne enough to go, like, chase after her that one time. But, like, you know, I think Set is a little bit more like, how the fuck did I end up with all of you? than Breeze really was. Right. You know. All right.
Yep, I think that's the end. They end the chapter with they're marching tomorrow.
Marching tomorrow. Alrighty. And so, chapter 13. Yeah. Final chapter that we're going to be going over. Yep. Alright. Hemalurgy. Death is always involved. Marsh described the process to whom? Is this Vin? Sazed? Those were some of my notes when I was like trying to figure it out. But it's like, no, I said it to like Sazed. Yeah. I think in the last book. Marsh, I'm missing something. I do love these perspective chapters. 10 new spikes, most powerful. If he could catch Kel, he could catch Marsh. Marsh's hang-ups about Kel. Yeah, because this is the Marsh chapter. Yep. This is another sort of a short Marsh chapter where he's like...
It's very sad. It's just very sad because he does not, like, He sat in the Kolos camp, just sitting. He hadn't moved in hours. Ash dusted him like a statue. Ruin's attention had been focused elsewhere lately, and Marsh had been left with more and more time to himself.
Yep.
And he still didn't struggle. Struggle only brought Ruin's attention.
Yeah, so he's, yes, so Marsh is, like, thinking about all this stuff. What did he say? I'm missing something. Because I have that here.
He's thinking, like, kind of back and forth. He wants to be controlled. He doesn't, or whatever. And then he thinks, what am I missing again? Distracting himself.
What am I missing? Yeah, he's, like, trying to, like, figure out what's going on, in a sense. Yeah. With, like, himself.
And then he's thinking about the Kolos, actually. So what am I missing? He's looking at the Kolos. They can't possibly live on for that long, can they? Marsh didn't know much about the Kolos, despite spending a better part of a year with them. They appeared to be able to eat almost anything to survive, as if it merely filling their stomachs were more important than actual nutrition. Yeah. What was Ruin waiting for?
Maybe that's a Ruin thing.
Yeah, it might be. What was Ruin waiting for? Why not bring his army in an attack? Why not move down and strike Luthadel?
Yeah, it's like, what am I missing? What's going on? Yeah. What's Ruin's game here?
Yeah, and he left Marsh on his own with like 10 new spikes in him and left him behind.
Which is so many. Yeah. So many spikes. And it's like, 10 new spikes, most powerful. So I think he's like the most powerful he's ever been. Yeah. Because of the spikes, or he's the most powerful one of them all. Yeah, if he could catch Kel, he could catch Marsh. I think that's talking about the Lord Ruler. Yeah. And talking about like why he sort of like gave up the Sky Rebellion and whatnot. It's like if he could catch Kelsier and throw him in the pits.
Yeah, then it'll happen to me eventually.
Yeah. And then, Marsh has all these hang-ups about Kel, all these sorts of, like, things that Kel was able to do that he wasn't, and all that kind of jazz. Marsh has an important part in Ruin's plan, it seems. He plans to kill himself at a strategic moment after lulling Ruin into a false sense of security.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
that's his plan.
That's his plan. He's like, all right, I am determined.
Yep.
I've got, when Ruin's off guard, I'm going to kill myself at an opportune moment.
Yep.
Except here's the thing. If it's an opportune moment, Ruin will probably be controlling you at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the moment that Ruin needs you most, he'll probably be controlling you, and so that's when you can't do it. So you need to do it, like, right before then, but you also need to know what the important moment is before it happens. You need to be able to anticipate it correctly. Which,
little One Piece.
Well, I have an alarm set to remind us to take, like, medicine and stuff. Yep. But yeah, it's like, he's sitting here trying to think, like, what am I missing? He's trying to, like, figure out what's going on with Ruin's plan so that he can properly do this. But it's like, here's hoping, because we've been trying to be clever for a while now, and it keeps getting us into trouble.
Yep, and he's been feeling pretty hopeless, but is still kind of that's his last
sort of hope in quotes, which is grim.
Yeah,
poor
Marsh.
Things are really bad for Marsh.
Things have been really bad for a long time for Marsh.
Yes,
he has a rough time.
He has, and even just thinking about what he must have gone through in the first book.
Yeah.
Becoming a Steel Inquisitor and all that, like
he is
because like we now see how that like happens and stuff, and so he's like, it's all worth it because you can kill the Lord Ruler, and then all this shit happens, and he gets taken over by this thing, and it's like, it's pretty bad, pretty bad for old Marsh. But, Marsh was the MVP in book 1, so...
Yeah. Here's hoping it can happen again.
Yeah. And so that's the Marsh chapter, because those have tended to be pretty quick. So that's all for chapter 13.
Yeah, and it's mainly just very sad.
Yep, and thus that's the end of part 1.
Yeah, the end of part 1.
Yep, and so we're going to be moving on to part 2, Cloth and Glass. Yep. That's what we're going to need to figure out what chapters we're reading for next time. But yeah, that's been chapter 13. And so now this is sort of just like the post chapter by chapter kind of wrap up, because I have some notes about Kabbalism.
Got you.
That I got from Esoterica and his series on Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah. Cuz this whole thing of like part of God. Yeah. And whatnot, and like ruin and preservation, it just kind of makes me think of some of this Kabbalah stuff where you have things like Ein Sof, without end, no thingness is sort of what those mean. It's either EIN or AIN, and either one can work. They'd be pronounced the same, and one is like without end, and one is like no thingness, like nothingness, but like no thing. The transcendental God, beyond all being, out of which everything emerged, but of which nothing can be known.
Okay.
So it's sort of the infinite nothingness that God comes from, and so the whole like sliver of infinity kind of reminds me a little bit of that, like this sort of like being a piece of God, like a sliver of infinity. The Sephirot enumerations are the 10 discrete transcendent emanations of the divine. Kabbalah is overwhelmingly dedicated to the emergence, dynamism, internal and external relationship, and balancing of these divine forces vis-a-vis the Jewish people via Jewish law. And so it's like there's these different parts of God, and Kabbalism is all about like how they relate to each other, interact with each other, are balanced or imbalanced, these sort of forces in the world. And so you have Keter, crown, the revealed yet unknowable nothingness of the divine will. Chokmah, wisdom, first unbounded flash of divine conception, the primordial Torah. Bina, understanding, the concretization of Chokmah into analytical clarity. Hesed, kindness, absolute divine love. Gevura, severity, absolute divine judgment, the original site of evil. So the whole Chesed, Gevura, kindness and severity kind of reminds me of ruin and preservation, but none of these are specifically ruin or preservation. Like, there are no parts of...
Yeah, were there any more?
Yes, there's Tiferet, beauty, symmetry, balance between Chesed and Gevura and compassion. Netzach, eternity, divine persistence, exuberance, conquest, which that feels very Lord Ruler, but I don't know.
That's, persistence is...
Also feels like eternity.
And, like, preservation.
Mm-hmm. Hod, splendor, divine withdrawal, inwardness, prophecy, Yesod, foundation, unity, and concentration of divine power, procession, Malkuth, kingship, reception, and expansion of divine power, reception, recession. So I think that's sort of like us getting it from God. That, like, Malkuth is kingship, so it's like the reception of this divine into us, expansion of divine power, so it's like, the king as conduit of the divine. So again, that also kind of feels Lord Rulery in a way.
Yeah.
The Shekinah is the feminine presence of God in the world, God's presence on earth that is not God, like the angel of the Lord or the pillar of fire. In Kabbalah, the Shekinah, the Shekinah, I don't remember exactly how it's pronounced, must be feminine, while previously that wasn't true. The Shekinah has similarities with the cult of the Virgin Mary in Spain. That was more of a sort of historical, just interesting little thing. And a lot of this stuff is sort of written about in the Sefer Zohar, which is the drama of the Sephiroth seeking unification at the end of time. Humanity is God's wife seeking to unify God by following God's law, i.e. Jewish law. It's radically conservative. He's like, I just want you to know, all this Kabbalistic stuff, it's very conservative.
Yeah,
it's very like, you gotta follow the Jewish law exactly, and you gotta follow all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, the 10 Sephiroth become the parts of God we can know. They bridge the gap between us and God's unknowable nothingness. Yeah. Before the physical is the metaphysical, and that's the Sephiroth. Sephiroth are constantly interacting and in flux. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some interesting
stuff in that.
Yep.
The Tree of Life image that we know, that we sort of think of, is the balanced Sephiroth. So if you imagine the Tree of Life, the sort of like the circles connected by the lines in a particular way, that's all the Sephiroth if they are in proper balance, which they essentially never are.
Right.
So it's not, so he's like, part of the thing is he's like, I want you to, like, when you think of it, don't think of that.
Yeah.
This is a big part of my thing. I'm not showing you that picture until, like, later, because I want you to not be thinking about that. Because this is them in, like, proper balance, which they, like, never are.
Yeah.
is like, part of it. And there's also, like, these earlier representations of it that don't look like this. They look different,
Right.
And yeah, and so just like all that kind of stuff is interesting with the whole parts of God in conflict with each other.
Yeah.
So the idea like ruin is maybe a part of God. There's preservation, and they're like at odds with each other. And so it's like there's no parts that are explicitly
right, like one to one or
anything, but it just kind of reminds me of that. You could maybe say that like what was it? Geruva or whatever. Gevura, severity, absolute divine judgment, the original site of evil. Maybe that's ruin, but ruin is maybe less evil than it is just sort of,
Right.
But it's also like if these things...
it's more like decay.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, but also these things are like out of whack, out of balance. So maybe it's like, some sort of weird like combination of things, like, because like it's like when because Tiferet, beauty, symmetry, balance between Chesed and Gevura in compassion. So it's like when the two come together, they sort of form Tiferet, beauty, symmetry. So it's like maybe this is some sort of weird unbalanced combination of God parts that makes them be preservation and ruin. I don't know. Or maybe, it's just kind of him doing his own thing, but sort of taking this sort of inspiration of like the parts of God in conflict with each other, but he just has like a different God with different parts in that sense. It's not just one-to-one taking the sort of Jewish tradition of it. Yeah. Anyway, all that comes from our old pal, I say that as if I know him, Esoterica, who we've mentioned on the channel before, Dr. Justin Sledge, I believe is his name. I also have like even more notes here that I'm not going to read because they're not important, except that I will say this one, that Moshe de Leon is the guy who like wrote a bunch of this, like sort of who kind of like establishes a lot of this Kabbalistic stuff with the Sefer Zohar, this like book that's claimed to be written by Shimon bar Yochai in the 2nd century, but it was in fact written by Moshe de Leon and his people in the 13th century in Spain. So it's like he's claiming this is coming from like the 2nd century and that there's like all this sort of stuff. And so that also kind of just reminds me of like some of the stuff that's going on here. We have this text that's supposed to be from a long time ago, but it's been like changed or distorted, except in this case it was actually just created from whole cloth. Like literally they went and they found his wife and they were like, where did this stuff come from? And she was like, from his own mind. He wrote it. Which and he's like, why do you do this kind of plagiarism? Why do you say that it's from the 2nd century? It's because you believe that it is true.
So it doesn't matter if
you say that it's like saying it's from this time just gives it more legitimacy, and you're like, well, this is true, and I have to tell people about it. So I'm going to say that this is important so that they'll believe me. A lot of times this isn't like someone trying to maliciously misinform. They believe it to be true. They just attributed to someone in the past so that it seems more legit, as it were. But he's like, this is supposed to be the story of Shimon bar Yochai and his people like wandering around and talking about the Kabbalah and having these interactions with people and learning stuff or whatever. But they make these like mistakes in terms of like where things are, saying that they're going north when they should be going some other direction or something like that. They just wouldn't have made. So it's like this is probably just like a fabrication. But he's like the Orthodox states that still holds that this is from the 2nd century and it was just only revealed in the 13th century. But yeah, it's interesting. God is not wise. God is beyond wisdom. You can only speak about what God isn't. God is transcendent and beyond everything. The luminous darkness. Which then, hearing that, gets into very Magnus territory. That's why, I'm sure that's a lot of why some of the Magnus stuff was the way it was. When you think about, the Lightless Flame and all that. Because there was the cult of the Lightless Flame in Magnus Archive, and it's very the luminous darkness.
And
it's like, that's where he got that's where old Johnny got this from. But yeah, so those are my esoterica notes about some of this like ruin and preservation stuff that's going on. And as one last little bonus parting thought for you, unrelated to Not Well of Ascension.
Nope.
Hero of Ages. So spoilers for any slobby, I'll say. In One Piece, spoilers for like around any slobby. For Water 7 and any slobby. Okay. So
this is pure nonsense.
So we were watching. so set the scene. We're watching Nerdy Nightly. Or Nerdy Daily. I should clarify. His channel where he's doing reactions and he's reacting to One Piece, as opposed to Nerdy Nightly, which is a separate thing where they do the book. The Nerdy Wordy Book Club and all that.
And a bunch of other reactions.
And a bunch of other reaction stuff, but like with Clarus. But this is Nerdy just on his own. He's been on YouTube. He's up to like any slobby. And we're watching this and we're thinking and we're looking at Spandam. Who he hasn't gotten to this part yet. So Nerdy, if you're listening, there's that one guy, the round guy who goes
I forget his name all the time.
But he's like, if you hit me, I can measure your like power levels into Doriki or whatever it is. And it's like the average Marine soldier has like 10.
Yeah.
It's like has a score of like 10 Doriki or something like that. And Spandam has a score of 9. He's weaker than the average soldier. And so we had this joke that Lucci's bird, Hattori, is probably stronger than Spandam because Nerdy just like is so like because Hattori
just like takes a drink from a teacup or
like
something.
A teacup like,
with his wing. Hattori's a bird. If you don't know One Piece,
right.
Hattori's literally a pigeon that sits on this guy's shoulder.
Yep, Hattori is a pigeon who sits on his shoulder and he like has
a serious villain. A serious
like Lucci's like an actual like serious villain. Like one of the first like, you know, sort of like big serious like threats in terms of like Luffy has to actually like, you know, power up in order to be better than him, you know. And he's got this bird on his shoulder who like wears a hat and like a coat and stuff, and you know, we see him like drinking from like a teacup, and I was like, Hattori is probably stronger than Spandam.
Who's like the leader of their unit.
Who's the leader of their unit because he's a Nepo baby, and that's why he is the leader of their unit. And so we sort of came up, we envisioned this scene, which, like, I just, like, our one call to action is always comment, but, like, this time, our one call to action is anyone you know who is into, like, just in the One Piece community at large, just spread this if you can, so that someone can, like, make some sort of animation of this.
Like a comic or something.
Yes, where the scene goes like this. For some reason or another, Spandam goes to punch Hattori, and we see Hattori use, like, the Soru, like, shave effect.
The very fast movement speed.
Yes, like, uses Soru, uses shave, that like, effect appears, so he just disappears and reappears behind Spandam, and then just with one wing karate chop, just hits him in the neck and knocks him out instantly. And that's all. We just need that.
We just need that.
Just to exist out there in the world. Mm-hmm. We just want, if you know One Piece, we just want you to in your head imagine Spandam trying to punch Hattori doing Soru, appearing behind him, and just knocking him out with one karate chop, and that's the whole gag.
That, and we have another the Sunny.
Oh, yes. I didn't write that one down. And I knew that there was something. I knew that there was something. Okay, so...
The other one was the Sunny getting...
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to think if there's any, like, more spoilers we need to add on besides, like...
Anislabi Water 7, like, we get the Sunny.
Yeah, we get the Sunny, but, like... Oh, okay, spoilers... See, here's the thing. Because of part of how all of our shit went... Spoilers for post-Egghead.
Got you.
Because we were talking about, like we know...
Right, you're right.
Right, because we know in One Piece, as far back as Alabasta...
So spoiler for, like, current manga. We'll just say spoilers for, like, current manga.
Spoilers for current manga.
Which is, like, 1131 is what we're on right now.
Right, is what we're currently on right now. And also, you know, an incidental spoiler for Alabasta I'm about to throw in there, which is that, we've known since then that, like, inanimate objects can eat devil fruit, right? So an inanimate object can eat a devil fruit.
We've seen it with the gun eating the dog, fruit, and Spandam's sword eating the elephant fruit.
The elephant fruit. So an inanimate object can eat the Azoan fruit and become an animal, like an object animal, right? And because a gun ate the dog fruit, we know that it doesn't have to just be like one piece. Like a gun is made up of multiple moving parts, right? So...
And it can shoot, like, the cannon.
Mm-hmm, and it can, like, you know, like, use the cannon and stuff like that. The sword turns into the elephant. It can even do, like, a weird, like, extendo elephant thing. So, imagine, if you will, the Sunny. Because Vegapunk's the one who does this. And Vegapunk is with them right now on the Sunny. and so, we were like, what if... the Sunny ate a devil fruit. And that was essentially our, like, last crew member.
Yep.
And the idea is that it would be like a lion fruit, which, like, on Elbaf right now, that cat that cat
Yep.
had like a lion fruit. Like the cat
right.
turns into a lion. And so, like, you might think, well, the cat didn't die. And the cat could still die, and we could get the fruit that way. But also, we have Vegapunk with us. Mm-hmm. We have evil Vegapunk, Lilith. And we know that with, like, green blood, and like, you can make copies of, like, he made a copy of,
right.
you know, freaking Kaido's fruit. So, like, and Kaido's still alive.
Yeah.
So she could make...
Maybe.
Kaido was alive at the time that the fruit was made.
Yeah.
So, you know, whether or not Kaido is still alive, But anyway, so she could potentially make a copy of that lion fruit and then give it to the Sunny, and then I think that would just be really fun.
It would be great to have a big lion
ship. Like,
and when we were talking, Chopper could talk to it.
Mm-hmm. Chopper can talk to animals, so Chopper could talk to the ship, so the ship could communicate with us. Like, the question is, so like, there's ship form, and as a ship, it should be able to float in water just fine.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, it is a ship. It has the properties of buoyancy that it has. Yeah. Right? Like, also, devil fruit users, a lot of them should technically probably be able to float because of how human work with buoyancy, but like I assume that just as a boat, ship's gonna float. Yeah. When it goes into hybrid form, it might not be able to swim. Yeah. But it maybe like, you know, if it's like hybrid boat cat form, because it already has like the face,
right?
So like, you know, it's just like imagine the Sunny like moving around like a cat and stuff. And, like, you know, some people come up to the Sunny, like, oh, we're gonna fuck up the ship. And then the Sunny just turns into Lion Sunny and attacks them. And they're like, what the fuck? And also, it's like, it turns fully into lion mode. Yeah. Would it be huge? Or would it be...
Right.
Like lion size?
Like an actual lion, yeah.
Probably not lion size, considering that the giant cat... whenever it turned to a lion, it didn't turn into like a human-sized lion. So just like the Sunny just turns into a big old lion and starts attacking people, and it's just a big old friendly cat. Mm-hmm. Just imagine the Sunny, but as a big old kitty cat.
Exactly.
And our friend. and we were just thinking about that, and we were like, that's honestly kind of amazing.
I want it
because it's like everyone forgets inanimate objects can eat devil fruit, and they're with Vegapunk right now. Like, Vegapunk is on the team. Because I was talking about, like, oh, what if, like, Frankie got some sort of, like, devil fruit thing or something? And then we were like, the ship! What if the ship was given a devil fruit? Oh, my God. And so that one also just needs to be spread out into the One Piece community. If you're a part of any One Piece community anywhere,
I would love to see a little comic of Lion
Sunny
walking around.
Mm-hmm. I just like if you're a part of any One Piece community anywhere, just tell them about the Sunny eating a lion devil fruit and becoming like the last crew member, essentially.
Yes,
like,
just spread it around.
Yeah, just
the new theory.
Yes, just like new theory. The Sunny
new crack theory. So the Sunny is the 10th member.
The Sunny is the 10th member. The Sunny eats a Zoan fruit, you know, much like how Big Mom's ship was alive. The Sunny is alive, and it ate a Zoan fruit, and it's a lion, and it's the fruit from the cat in Elbaf. Because Vegapunk just like syringes it out and puts it in the Sunny.
That's how that works.
That's how that works. Because that would be great. And then also, I hadn't even thought about this, because it's like, and then it's like, we don't need to heal, like, oh, it almost puts Frankie out of a job. It's like, does Frankie have to, like, patch up the ship? Or it can just heal, like, you know, heals in Zoan form, and then when it turns back into a ship, the ship is fixed. And it's like, how does that work? Genuinely, Oda, how does that work? Oda, we have Vegapunk with us. We went to Egghead and saw Vegapunk, and the one question I've always had is
how does an object eat a devil fruit? Oda, please tell me. Vegapunk, please. Lilith.
Yeah, so that's our One Piece crack theory. Yep. We need to just have a One Piece podcast.
Yeah.
Really, but you know.
For now, we have our little One Piece segment.
Yes, this has been the One Piece segment of our, book podcast. End of spoilers.
There we go.
And also, end of show. This has been Let's Talk About Book. Now, go forth and think about book on your own time. Be sure to, comment and tell everyone you know about Hatori beating Spandam and the Thousand Sunny becoming a lion. I didn't give spoiler warnings for those because if you don't know anything about them, you'll just hear those words and go, what? Have a nice whatever time it is for you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.